marketing and operations are the magic ingredients to the success of any company at all. And as we try to always draw attention to, getting into real estate investing is not just some kind of hobby. Getting into real estate investing is creating a business and running it to a high level to make you the money and give you the results that you're looking for. So I'm super pumped that today we've got my business partner, Ronnie Walker, who is, I can attribute just massive reasons to the successes that I've had to this man sitting right here to my right. So I really look forward to downloading his brain into you guys today for this next hour or so. So stick around, and when we get back, we are going to be diving deep into some real and actionable stuff that you can do to get to and past that closing table. We'll see you on the other side. Oh, hey, the light is reversed. I didn't know we were live. What's up, everybody? What's up, Ronnie? How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. I am exhausted.
Yep.
But I am great.
Absolutely.
We have stayed up late strategizing for this past few days, and it's been awesome. So I'm super pumped to have you here. Thank you so much for joining today. And I hope you guys know and appreciate just how much value we are going to be getting today, because Ronnie here, as we talk about, I'm a big believer in the book Traction and people understanding how to swim in their own lane and what's needed for the true success of a company, that kind of thing. And the success that you can have with a visionary and integrator relationship is stupid. Like, when you get the right people in the right place, the successes that you have are just exponential. And finding a good integrator is extremely hard. And Gino Wickman in Traction says an integrator is basically 20% of the working public can be an entrepreneur, and of that 20%, only about 5% of those people are integrators. And what we have on the show today is somebody who is in the top 1% of that 5% of the 20%. A very rare beast, Mr. Ronnie Walker. Thanks for joining us,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. As you guys know, like you said, we partnered up, and just kind of the Traction model, being able to swim in your swim lane, right? Be able to do what you're good at is key. And today we really want to dive into what I see as some of the two most important keys to scaling, to starting, and to really getting traction and execution and results in your business from really step one, and not necessarily step 15, but step 1 through 15.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the buzzword, the thing that everybody always wants, is marketing, right? Like, how do I find these deals?
Yep.
How do I do something about it once I found them?
Right.
Right? And so what we want to get in front of you today is that has been one of the skills that Ronnie has really been able to bring to this table as a dude who got in the business back in 2011 or so, right?
Yep.
Done tons of deals. Closed
just a few.
Hundreds and hundreds of deals under his belt. I was super excited to get the partnership going. Flew up to Michigan to make this happen. And you guys have heard me say, within our first month, just putting all the puzzle pieces together with what we were bringing to the table, we had 15 contracts, 13 closings, right?
Yep.
It's been a crazy journey. So what that goes to show is and you've seen me post too, we're getting campaign results of we got 9.8% return rates on our postcards that Ronnie handled out. And that's
insane.
Ridiculous.
That's absolutely just a crazy number. And I know a lot of people think that's a crazy number. And here's the thing about marketing, real estate, when you're in the real estate game, you've got to have leads, and understanding how marketing works is probably the number one most important factor in running a successful operation, because you have to have knowledge, you have to have the right people around you, but you also have to have leads. And so just kind of diving into what that looks like is what we want to do. I want to give you some philosophy and us kind of talk about the philosophy and the way to think about marketing. And then at the end of this, I actually want to, towards the end of the last segment, once I kind of get the philosophy, we talk about some of the operations on how to execute that philosophy, then I want to give you 2 legit, solid strategies. One, if you don't have any money to throw into marketing, that will get you deals, like will actually get you money in your pocket in a reasonable time frame. And number 2, if you do have money to throw into it, how you can turn that money into a 300% return where you are like putting your dollars in and getting your dollars back with profit. So at the end, I want to give you those 2 strategies. So that's kind of what we're going to dive into.
That's so awesome. And guys, as always, if you've got questions, take advantage of the fact that we do have like direct access right now to somebody that is, like I said, and I'm not trying to like overly build, but like, you know, it is rare to have somebody who is as good at the operational side, at the just like get it done side in this industry, because we're all idea people. We're all like, most people fit into that visionary, like, hey, I've got ideas that I want to get out there. And like, so being able to have some direct access to a guy who like his skill is that operational side that most of us suck at, please take advantage of that. Throw some likes out here, throw some comments. We'll answer questions throughout as we go on. But to your point, what we do want to do is we want to start out talking about kind of the philosophy behind the marketing, right? I think that that's one of the big gaps behind or between people in the successful marketing campaigns is that they don't know why or how, right? So give us some insight as you're building these lists, as you're building campaigns, as you're thinking about how you're going to get somebody to sign a piece of paper that allows you to make money. Where's your brain?
Yeah, so when you're talking about marketing, okay, it all starts with who is the person we're looking for. That's where it starts with, right? And so in real estate, we all know some common channels. We all get the common question. Are you doing cold calling? Are you text messaging? Are you RVM? Are you sending direct mail? Like these are channels of marketing that I think we all know of, but it's the strategy behind using the channel where the magic happens, right? Mm-hmm. I can send direct mail. And my response rate might be 4.5% this week, depending on where I'm at in my sequence of marketing. And you might be able to send out a direct mail marketing campaign, and you get 0.01% response rate. I'll get 400 calls. You'll get 40 calls, right? And so, although the channel is the same, the thought process behind how to use that channel is very different, right? And so when you're thinking about it, you've got to be able to isolate who are you looking for? Like who is the person in the real estate game specifically that is trying to sell their house? Now, a lot of us think, okay, well, that's a motivated seller, right? Like we have got to find the person who's motivated, but what are they thinking about in their life before they call you? Because they're not thinking, oh, guess what, Grant? Like, hey, I'm a motivated seller. So like, I need to sell my house, right? Like that's not what they're thinking. So what are they thinking, right? Like what's going on in their life? And that's where we need to start. And so being able to isolate who that person is very important. So the next question is, well, who is that person? Right? So, and this is where list is important. Identifying where people are at in the ownership of their home is important. This is where identifying their life circumstance is important. And we also have to keep aware of like competition, right? Like if everybody's hitting the same list, there's 3,000 people going after one dude. Like now he has options and he's not as motivated.
Right.
Right.
And so to that point, you know, one of the things that I think that a lot of people keep themselves from having success with is like, because I hear this all the time. People are like, well, I'm not going to market to the probates because everybody's marketing the probates.
Right, yeah.
And so what happens is they don't send any marketing and then they're confused why they don't have any closings. Right? So there is a certain point in time in which I would say, and you tell me if you agree with this, right?
Okay.
Because you're the marketing genius, not me. In which I would say, it doesn't matter that other people are doing it. Go freaking do it. If your card's not, because like, you know, you get a phone call from somebody. Sometimes that phone call is because they got 75 postcards and they just chose one of the pack and they called you. But if you're not in the pack, if you're not in that stack of postcards, you don't have any options.
Well, and this is actually where luck comes in, right? So a lot of people talk about like, well, am I gonna, you know, there's a stack of postcards and are they gonna pick my postcard and are they gonna call me and are they gonna do 1, 2, and 3, right? These are a lot of the fears that surface with marketing, especially and direct mail is kind of what we're leading to. And that's because you're spending money. But here's the thing, and I know Grant has talked about this, there is an element of luck to this game, right? There is an element of like, that person who calls me, are they at the right moment in their life that they're going to do this? However, what I like to say is you can actually control the luck, right? So if I roll 2 dice and I throw them into a dice tray, getting double 6s is lucky. I mean, would you agree?
Right, yeah.
If I throw it in there and I'm like, guess what, Grant, I'm going to get double 6s. You're going to be like, okay, let's actually see if we're going to get this, right? However, if you throw the dice 45 times, you will get double 6s. And I can encourage you, I bet you a bunch of people are going to actually go and try that. Like I've done it multiple times. You will get double 6s. So marketing's the same way, right? That as you're marketing, right, and there's that probate lead, everybody's hitting them, like there is an element of luck, but eventually you're going to land on that double 6s. And this is why it's important to know your numbers or know industry numbers so you have something to measure against. And what I like to say is, you know, it's not necessarily a time frame until you get your first deal or your next deal, but it is a conversation game. If you just have 10 people call you and you have 10 conversations and you're discouraged, you're not thinking about it right because you haven't rolled the dice enough times. And so how can you roll the dice enough times to get a deal? And especially when you're starting off with, your goal in marketing is to get to 200 conversations. Like, get to as many conversations as possible. You're going to have a ton of people that are going to cuss you out. You're going to have a ton of people that are like, no, I'm not really interested. You're going to have a ton of people that are like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to give my house away. Like, what can you do? And then you're going to have a person that's just like, you know, I really need to sell. And, you know, I don't really know what to do. This is what I was thinking. And that's going to be your lay down seller, right? That's going to be the duck or the reasonable person that you're talking to. That's what you're trying to get to from the very beginning of marketing, but you have to roll the dice enough times to get there.
And I really like that you're calling out like the number of conversations, right? Like, because you know, arguably, so many of the people that I'll interact with that like, you know, are having a problem with the marketing or having a problem with like getting to the closing table, they're not talking to the seller.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times we can convince ourselves to get into like an analysis paralysis of like, how do I get to this seller that I want to talk to?
Yep.
Because we can get into this like, well, how do I find the seller? Like, who's the lead? Like, give me the, who do I go to? Where do I, what's your take on, let's just talk about like lists, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because list can mean a lot of different things. List can mean, you know, what, like a literal downloaded list. List can mean like you're walking your dog and you've written down houses that you want to call, right? Like at some point in time, there's a list of people.
You've walked for dollars.
You've walked for dollars.
Let's walk for dollars, guys. No, I'm kidding.
Right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about like your philosophy behind how much time do you need to spend.
Yep.
Again, and I'd like for you guys to comment here too. We've talked about this several times in the last few weeks. Comment down here. Like, I kind of define different stages of your career defined by there's like some definitive like markers of like how you're gonna have to change your operations and that kind of stuff. And I view stage 1 as like that 0 to 10 houses in your entire career, not a year, but like in your entire career, you've done 0 to 10 houses. Stage 2, you've done 10 to 25. Stage 3, you've done 25 to 75. Stage 4 is 75 and above.
Yep.
So please comment right now, YouTube, Facebook. Let us know where you're at.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely
are stage 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, because that's going to help us shift our conversation to making sure that you're going to be able. Because our job is to make sure that we're removing as many obstacles between you and success as possible. That's our job as educators in doing something like this. But if we don't know where you are, then we can't tell you how to get where you need to be. Right?
Absolutely. Well, and my advice, especially when we talk about operations, is directly related to the timing and the place that you're at in your career, right? Like, my advice to somebody who's done like 20 deals and has a operation that needs to be tweaked to get better results is a lot different than somebody who needs to get results right now.
Right.
And so that's it helps us fine tune that. So what was your question?
So the question is, let's talk a little bit about like, how do you value / how much time do you spend on, because like you brought up earlier, like who's your seller, right? In marketing lingo, that's build your avatar.
Right. Yeah,
In marketing lingo, it's
who's your perfect person.
Exactly. Who is if you build everything based around like, I'm going to get this person that looks exactly like this to sell me a house, then if you're marketing that person, then you're like, by accident, you're going to hit people that are within a certain variance of that person, and you're increasing your odds by rolling the dice more. How much time do you spend on that avatar build? We got a bunch of people in stage 1. We got one dude that's popping in stage 2.
Yep.
How much time do you spend in stage 1 building that avatar?
How much time do I spend in stage 1? So stage 1, you don't really know what you don't know, right? So the best thing to do is go off proven lists that you know that work, and take proven strategies that we know that work, so you have something to test and to tweak. And to run after. So the answer to your question is, in stage 1, I'm trying to steal the best information and duplicate a result.
Okay.
I'm trying to prove a concept, right? I'm trying to prove that, hey, 1, I need revenue. 2, can I get through this process? 1, I need experience, or 3, I need experience, and just talking to sellers.
That's not how numbers work.
No, right?
1, 2, 1.
1, 2, 1. Hey, maybe it does, but what you're doing is you are getting experience. So up front, I'm trying to copy and steal Grant's master plan. I'm trying to copy and steal what Daniel does. I'm trying to look at the dude who did 30 wholesales a year. That might not be the top guys, but I'm trying to look at the dude who did 30 wholesales a year by himself and say, dude, what did you do?
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to copy it rather than trying to make something up myself, because my ideas, and this is one of the things I love about Grant, like a lot of people are visionaries and they have a lot of ideas, but not a lot of people have good ideas. And if you're a visionary, you've got to have great ideas, and you've got to be able to like pull off your idea, right? Like you've got to be able to say, you know what? I think we can make this into an existence. Like this can happen. And then when you talk to people get on page with you. Like people are like, dude, yeah, let's do that. And then the integrator's like, this is how you do that, right? Like, but the idea needs to be good. And when you're in stage 1, you don't know what a good idea is versus a bad idea, and you need to be focused on making money.
That's a really good point.
Right?
That's a very good point.
The avatar question is copy what's good. And as far as Propelio goes, like these guys are awesome. These guys know what they're talking about. And when it comes to lists, like take their word for it and be strategic on how you use the avatar they're giving you.
Right. And so the thing is like, I mean, to that point, right? Like none of this happens without Propelio putting this on. We acknowledge that, right? So there's, I don't want you to feel like there's an element of like, oh, we're going to talk about Propelio only because we're sitting here with a giant Propelio logo behind us. Like I believe in the product. I believe in what Propelio has to offer you because, again, it is like legitimately, I really like how you pointed out, you don't know what a good idea is or a bad idea is in stage 1.
Yep.
You just don't yet have you don't have the sample size to be making independent decisions that are going to change the factors down the road. You've got to look at the successes of other people and find. And when we talk about building that avatar and building that list, you have that built in for you. There's some legit lead lists in Propelio that you can just go in and find some foreclosures and probates and vacant houses and tax delinquents and like all these things. Just like choose one and stick to it and find somebody who's been successful in that niche and see if you can't kind of figure some things out. And again, we are going to give you, like Ronnie's going to give you 2 straight up, you do these things, you're going to buy houses. At the end of this episode, there's like, hey, if you don't have any money, do this and you will buy houses. If you don't have, or if you do have money, do this. I don't remember which one I said first, but like either way, either you do or you don't have money, there's a strategy for both of these for you to go buy houses. We'll talk specifics on that. Right now we're talking about that avatar. We're talking about the stage 1, like how do you build that list? Download the list. Go up to Propelio, go to the leads list, download it. And even like to the point of, because we got Christina Kraus to come into the Propelio Academy, propelio.com/academy. Watch Christina Kraus. She talks about like details on marketing to probates So like steal it.
Yeah, absolutely steal it. Well, and here's the other thing is, because you don't necessarily know exactly who that person is, or you might be crafting it and studying who that is, you need to prove that you can execute. Like as a visionary type and as someone who's starting their own business, which I have been there, and I have started and ran and done a lot of transactions and created the operations for the business. Part of that is being able to execute. Like when you first started, right? Like way back in 2011, when you first started, yes, you had these ideas, but guess what you did? You went to Scott and you literally like sat at him and was like, this is what I'm going to do. You are the best in the industry at this one thing, and give it to me, and I'm gonna knock this out of the park, right? Like, and so he didn't try to make up at the beginning, like, let's make up this whole new strategy, and like, let me try to read between the lines and the laws, and let's try to figure out what people aren't doing. He doesn't know, so he copied, and so that's where, with the people who are at number one, that's where you want to start.
And so we're going to jump into like operational questions. We've got a couple of good questions popping in here too, and we'll address those guys. Again, if you want to get questions answered by like a top of the line integrator type, a COO type, comment your questions. We'll get them through. We don't have Ronnie in every day. He's in from Michigan, so we get to enjoy some of the benefits from that today. When we're talking about like enacting, right, and like going out and just doing that we start transferring over into like an operational mindset of just, you're gonna have to do.
Yes.
You're just gonna have to do.
Yep.
And that single-handedly, I think, is really, it's like when people come to me and they're like, well, what list do I send? What list? Just choose one.
Absolutely.
Just choose one and do it, right?
That's correct.
So we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to, now that we've kind of established a little bit of the philosophy behind like the marketing, just like where is a brain like Ronnie thinking about the marketing process?
Well, and especially up front, right? Like
right. Yeah.
Up front for stage one, when it comes to marketing, like it is okay to completely copy a proven process. Sam Walton, the builder of Walmart, literally walked into other people's stores and said, that is awesome, I'm gonna do it and add it to my store. Like, you wanna do that.
Yeah.
You wanna walk in and you wanna say, dude, that is awesome, I'm gonna steal it and I'm gonna do it. That's what you wanna do.
Absolutely.
When you're first starting off, because you need money, you need revenue, you need to make sales, and you might as well steal what's working for someone else and it's proven.
Absolutely. So let's take a break. Whenever we get back, we're going to dive a little bit more into the operational side of like, okay, so we've got a little bit of philosophy of just like, allow yourself to relax, right? Allow yourself to just say, hey, this is working for people, and I got to roll the dice 45 times.
Absolutely.
Don't get so worried about like, this has to work immediately right here. Be realistic. One of the things I like, a phrase that you use a lot is like a reasonable seller.
Yep.
Right? I think you've got to be a reasonable investor. You have to be realistic about what's going on and the aspect of luck versus controlling of that luck. And I think a lot of people drop out before they've rolled the dice 45 times and think that they suck or that the strategy sucks or whatever. So as we get into the next segment, we'll be giving you some tips and mindset and like ideas of how, again, an operational mind is going to think about the operations that go behind sending this marketing out and converting that into a closing that puts money into your bank account. So stick around.
This is Steve. Steve is a successful real estate investor. Steve is wearing glasses, so therefore you know he's a successful real estate investor. You go, Steve. Go, Steve, go. Go get those dollars. You see that blue dot? That's Steve. Just looking at houses left and right. Look at him go. Get the Propelio mobile app and drive for dollars today. All without leaving your car.
All right, so here we are talking, we've spent some time kind of discussing how does a how does a Ronnie brain think about the marketing campaign, right? Not necessarily getting into the specifics yet of like a do this, do that. We'll do that at the end of this episode. We'll give you a do this, do that to go make money. But the thing that we need to be sponging from you right now is just how do you look at things, right? How are you looking at it, right? So we've put some we've put some ideas behind like how am I looking at the philosophy of marketing, which is stop stressing yourself out about creating something new in stage one. Yes, innovative campaigns are what get you from stage 4 to stage 5 to stage 6. Like that's where your innovation comes in. Stage 1 is rolling the dice 45 times and sitting squarely in that. Now, one of the operational things of doing that is like if you send out campaigns, you will get phone calls, right?
Yep.
Especially in using some of the tips that we will give you at the end of this episode. Every phone call that you get, you need to be asking certain questions. Obvious ones like, what do you owe on the house? Like, what's your interest rate at? Blah, blah, blah. Like discovery questions there. But one of the most valuable questions that I ask any seller that calls in with an inbound call, especially off of a marketing campaign is, hey, so, what made you call me other than the 15 other postcards that are on your, like what made you actually dial my phone number?
Yeah.
And listen to what they tell you. Because for instance, we have some things that go in like every marketing campaign that we've done because my sellers consistently said this like 3 words that were in my piece. Well, your piece said this. So as my sellers consistently said that, that is how you start to build your avatar. That is how you start to say, okay, the person who's going to sell to me is a person who's going to respond to this and sits in this seat and has these things in their life going on. How do I find that person, right? So let's take a look at your day.
Yeah.
How do you manage your time as a stage oneer? What does your day look like?
What is your day as a stage 1? All right, so this is what it looks like as a stage 1. One, obviously you have life going on, but your day when you're focused on real estate, your day is to get the phone ringing as much as possible. Okay, so as a marketing guy, let's use direct mail. Okay, because I got to start somewhere. Okay, so let's use direct mail. I've sent out pieces. I'm waiting for people to call. You answer the phone call, and your job is very, very simple. Your job is to set the stage and understand where they're at, right? Like we think, oh, we got to pre-qualify this lead. That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking like, what does this guy have to say? Like, I don't want to get it. I'm a little nervous. And we're thinking we got to pre-qualify this person, right? So when it comes to answering the phone call, you need to do one, you need to soothe them and set the stage of the expectations, right? And set put them at ease and let them know it's okay to not make a decision right now because they're used to people forcing them, especially with a lot of the marketing pieces out there. They're very direct, call me now, sell your house now, right? And so they might be a little nervous. You need to set them at ease. Number 2, you need to dig into motivation and you need to stop looking for motivated sellers. We hinted at that earlier. Don't look for motivated sellers. Look for a reasonable human being. Because here's the thing, if you look at the other dude, and this was a mindset switch for me. If I'm looking at you and I think you're motivated, I'm looking down at you. I have the answers for you, Grant. But if you're reasonable, it's man, I want to help out a dude who's reasonable. Dude, I want to buy your house. Why would you sell it? And so I'm digging into his motivation, but I'm considering him a reasonable person. Okay. So that's number 2 in your talking to that individual. Number 3 is then bring up the things that could get in the way, right? The roadblocks. We call them objections. And the reason why we call them objections is we don't talk about them up front and they're thinking about it. And we're let's move forward. And they're no, dude, I'm not ready yet. Yeah. Right. And they might not know exactly, but they have fears and stuff that they're talking about. Right. And then lastly is being able to present. So back to your question, when planning for your day is prepare for the interaction. That's step 1. That's why I went into all that is I know what that interaction is going to look like, and I'm familiar with what their expectation is going to be. And I want you to maybe not have it 100%, but plan this is my expected result. Take literally those who plan and put together just the next few moves. When you make those moves, you're going to be dude, things just fell into place really, really nice. And planning doesn't have to be like a full day of planning. That could be, you know what, for the next 3 hours, I'm going to do this. You sit down for 15 minutes and you literally plan that step for that 15 minutes, then do it. Before you call somebody, if you have a follow-up call, sit down and say, what am I going to say? What if he says this? Maybe here's a little conversation tree. If he says this, I'm going to go here. If he says this, I'm going to go here. And preparation. So step number one at the beginning of the day is preparation. And really at the beginning of the week is preparation. What does my week look like? What should I get set up? What drives revenue? At step one, that's the number, what makes me money? Think of it that way. I use revenue because now, building a company. But what is the few things that are going to make me money? And what are the things that just make me feel good that are busy work? If you're building a logo or you're setting up business cards or you're creating a website and you're spending hours on this, you're fooling yourself into thinking you're making money, okay? What you need to be spending time on is first planning and isolating what are the things that make me money, and then going after and executing those things, because I promise you the thing that actually makes you money, especially as a visionary, is now you're selling people on your idea. And can you convince people to do what you want them to do? Right? And can you connect with them? And now it's about executing and stepping into your, out of your comfort zone. Actually, right? So now it's about executing and doing, like, you might not have the process or the system, but you need to be talking to people.
Yeah.
Right? And so the next part after planning is to set up, how many people can I talk to today? Like, who can I talk to? You can't do this business without talking to anybody. And so figuring out who I'm going to talk to or what activities are going to drive momentum, right? Because at the very beginning, it's about creating momentum, and that is the hardest thing. You've seen people who they'll make $1 million and they'll never make $1 million again. The reason why that happens is they created momentum, they stopped because they rolled the dice enough times where they hit 45, or they hit 45 rolls and they hit the double six, but they forgot that it took 45 rolls to hit that double six and that they have to roll 45 times again. And they stop and they have to create the momentum. They have to spend the money when they're not seeing anything, like they're not seeing the results of the calls, right? There's not a constant flow. And so what happens is the momentum dies and you stop doing the behaviors that drive the result that you want. Because the result you want is not going to magically happen. It's only going to happen based on certain behaviors. And those behaviors are behaviors that create momentum that get you closer to a deal.
And so let's spend a second on that too, because we're getting a lot of good content here. This is really good. People need to understand. And I love that you're last week or the week before, we did a series on RGA, which is a phrase that I've stolen from James Jenkins, which stands for revenue generating activity. Really drawing attention to, and it's funny because I don't think you watched this episode, but you're pointing out a lot of the same stuff that we pointed out. Getting your website, getting your team, getting your business cards doesn't make somebody sign a piece of paper.
That's right.
That sells you a house.
Yep.
Right? So we have to be very acutely aware of, we're in this business to buy houses because houses make us money.
Yep.
We're not in this business to work hard.
That's
right?
correct.
So when we got into this business, we got into this business because it makes money. So what is the thing that I need to do to make money? Now, the thing that I have seen reoccur over students that I've trained and people that I have to really make sure that the members of Creative Cash Flow understand this is when you get that win, your job isn't done.
No.
Your work increases now, because now not only are you spending your day working on lead generation, on those activities that it's going to take to get a new lead in the door that you can close on, but you now also have added taking that contract to closing.
That is correct.
So you've got extra work that you need to have done, right? So when you're talking about going through and getting these things done, that consistency, it's so easy when you get a check or you get a contract to say, all right, I got to focus on this contract or else I'm not going to, whatever. I'm going to lose. So people stop marketing and they stop building lists and they stop doing all of that stuff because they're I need to put all my attention on this, which logically sounds correct.
Yep.
But is absolutely the incorrect move for your business, because it takes time from when you start your marketing campaign to when you will start to see the results of that campaign.
That is correct.
which is what he's referring to here as momentum, right? And
think of it this way.
Yeah.
So when you have a basketball and you spin the basketball and you balance it on your finger, you're like hitting it, getting it going. And then once it's going, then you just tap it.
Yeah.
And that is so that initial push is like tons and tons and tons of activity. And we're talking about marketing specifically.
Right.
Lots and lots of marketing, whatever that is, to get that going. And then it's about consistent marketing. And then that flow will happen, because a campaign you sent 2 weeks ago, you might have a trickle of 4, 5, 6 calls this week, but it'll seem like that was from this last week's marketing, when really, and so there's a compound effect. Mm-hmm. And that's that consistency in marketing specifically, where now you're just balancing it. Right? You're just balancing it and keeping the consistency going.
That's a really good. So we've got a couple of good questions in here. Do you and Ronnie do any other marketing other than direct mail, cold calling, or bandit signs, etc.? We're direct mail guys. Here's the thing: is that cold calling, and we actually talked about this on the Monday night Q&A. So he came in for the Creative Cash Flow Q&A on Monday night. Every Monday night at creativecashflow.com for all the members, I do just like a Q&A. We just answer questions until the questions are done. We were talking about this the other night about like this specific thing.
Yep.
And cold calling is kind of this like sexy new thing. It's not really new, but it's like this sexy like new thing that like everybody, like a couple years ago, everybody was like, oh, I'm going to build out this cold calling floor, and we're going to, that's where deals are coming from. And one philosophy that I think that is shared by like literally every large operator that I know is that, because the reason that people are getting so into cold calling is they're like, my conversion rate is so good, right? Which A, I would argue, but B, I would, and you correct me with how you think about this, right?
Yep.
Because you're more of the operational mind. But like, I look at this and I say, look, okay, so I can convert a cold calling campaign at whatever. I don't know what a reasonable. Do you know what a cold calling campaign's conversion rate
I don't know the
reasonably
numbers
would
off
be?
the top of my head.
So let's say it's 5%. Okay, and postcards. National average on postcards is 0.5%. Like you send out I guess that would be what, 1,000 postcards, and you're gonna get 5 calls. Is that right? 0.5? I don't know. No.
5%. It's actually 0.5% in DFW.
In DFW.
Yeah. So you send out 1,000, and you're probably gonna get what? What's a half a? You're gonna.
I'm
get,
such an idiot, dude. We're tired. We've been like
calls.
running a bunch
You're
of
gonna
crap.
get 50 calls.
Yeah. So yeah. 0.0. 1,000 would be 5 calls.
5 calls. There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. 1,000 pieces. We're good at maths. It's not like we're in a numbers job or anything like that. You're gonna get 5 calls, right? So if you're in a cold calling campaign and you're like, well, I can reach 5% to do apples to apples, right? You're reaching 5% of the people versus a mailer campaign, you're reaching 0.5% of people. But you can only dial 15 times a day. You can scale postcards. You can scale, if you get a system that works with mailers and you see, hey man, I put $1 into this mail campaign and I get $5 out.
Yeah.
People, if you think about it in those terms, it used to be with mailers, you put $1 in, you got like 8 to 11 out. Now you put $1 in, you get 3 to 5 out. And so people started backing out and they're like, oh, I'm only getting $3 to $5 out for every $1 in. I'm going to go to cold calls.
Yep.
Because they're like, oh, well, I can, but the scalability isn't there. And you don't have that system. It is much harder to scale a cold calling operation to where it's like, look, with mailers, okay, I put $1 in, I get 3 to 5 out. I put $1 in, I got 3 to 5 out.
Here's the thing with the different marketing channels. So like cold calling, text messages, RVM, these things are amazing in the sense of they're cheap, right? You can skip trace a list, and you can call that forever, and you don't have to spend 39 cents to hit that person over and over again. You can literally hit them forever. So your cost goes way down, okay? And that's why they're attractive, because it's like, well, if I can scale this, I don't have to pay for a direct mail campaign to go out every week. I don't have to drop literally $2,000 a week for stuff to go out, I can literally pull it, skip trace it, and then I can hit them over and over again and just pay hourly if I hire somebody, or if I do it myself, I'm not gonna pay anybody, right? And if you've got a list source and you've got the skip tracing, you can just hit and hit and hit. That's the thought process.
That's really good.
Direct mail, and the reason why I like direct mail is, one, it's scalable. Two, it's a lot easier to track, in my opinion, like from things coming in from the trackable services. And I'm leveraging, so what it is you're creating massive outbound action for targeted inbound calls, right? And when someone calls me in direct mail, it's much different because they've stopped and they've raised their hand and they've said, I'm interested. When I'm cold calling out or text messaging out or RVM or whatever on those systems, you're interrupting people. And so when they reach back out to you, there's a hurdle you have to overcome, and then you have to, quote, qualify, right? There's a natural resistance they have. You have to overcome that, and then you have to qualify, where when people reach out to you, they're exploring the process. This is why I like direct mail. And then direct mail is it's just easily scalable.
Right.
In the process. So that's the thinking behind the two.
And that's not even addressing like the legality side, right?
Yeah.
Because there is concern on the legalities of cold calling, the legalities of RVM, the legalities of bandit signs, the legalities of text messaging. There's concern on that. That's not to say those things don't work. But there is concern about the legality, and are you going to get hit with fines coming off of that?
Right.
Let's hit one more question before we take a break and come back and kind of continue on in our operation, because I think this is good. Are you guys enjoying this? Are you guys enjoying like this kind of operational, like, look into the mind of an operations dude? Comment here. Let us know like how you're feeling. If you've got questions, Miranda, I appreciate you dropping questions in there. We'll get that. But like, let us know how you feel about this. I hope you're enjoying it. Miranda asked another question. What would you say to an integrator doing it on their own without a visionary? And that's a really good. So let me start with that, and then I'm going to let you take the field. The interesting thing about visionaries and integrators is that an integrator is going to be just fine without a visionary. The reverse is not necessarily true, and is actually arguably usually not true. A visionary with no integrator is just a guy that's like, let me tell you how great my ideas are. Have you ever known that an idea is an idea? Right. And visionaries have this. Craig Ferris is one of our mastermind students, and I don't know, members, not student, but he's in the mastermind, super sharp dude. And he put it really well, because he's he's a CEO, a visionary type. And he was like, look, the problem with being a visionary is if I can see the finish line, I'm done. Yes. Like I'm done. Like I'm not going to do the work anymore to get to that finish line because I see that it exists. So visionaries and CEOs love the process, whereas like a COO and an integrator type loves the result and like keeps hounding until that result occurs, right? So like the integrator is kind of fine without the visionary. The visionary is going to have trouble without the integrator. What's your take on like what advice would you give to an integrator type watching this? An integrator, for those who haven't read Traction, is a COO. That's kind of the more like chief operational officer, right? Like what's your advice to somebody who might be that COO type that doesn't have a visionary?
Well, step number one to that person is the COO, the integrator, is going to be able to steal someone's process or steal an idea from, say, something that they like, and they're going to be able to see what it takes to carry it out, and they're going to be able to put a process in place to get a consistent result, right? Because all I care about is that end result. Like, I want the money in a deal. Let's just use a deal for instance. So if that means that I've got to sit in this chair for 2 hours in front of this guy and just talk to him, like I'm doing that result. So that's what an integrator will do. So when he says an integrator will succeed without a COO or a visionary, it's CEO, excuse me. It's because that process will be put in place, or you will see that process and you will execute that process and do kind of the slight edge approach of you'll do the daily actions to get there. You kind of have the discipline to carry it out. A great visionary is able to see the future is able to have ideas and great ideas and say, this is what I want to accomplish. Here are the people coming back. Here are the people coming like that I've got to surround myself with, and being able to get people on board with their ideas and that they're actually good ideas. And so that's the thing with working together with a great visionary, is they'll say, here's where I want to go. And then the integrator will be like, dude, here's the process to get there. And here's the execution. And here's the behaviors that we have to do in order to create the momentum to get there. Where the visionary is just like, dude, that's the result. And we're going to have that tomorrow because, you know, we've got the money here and this is the result and this is going to be the path and this is what's going to happen. And they're like, they see the picture perfect scenario, where the integrator sees, well, we've got to have this behavior. We've got to have that behavior. We've got to have this KPI. We've got to have 200 calls to get this result. So that means if this is the result, that means we've got to have, 500 calls a week. And if we're getting 500 calls a week, this many of them are going to be dump calls. That means this, we're going to have 20 new qualified leads per week. And out of those 20, we're going to get 3 contracts a week. And they're able to kind of back out that process and put the steps and the roadblocks and the behaviors in place with the idea that's good.
Right. So, and I'm sorry, I had to come over here and plug my computer in, so I may have missed if you said this. But what is your so the advice of if you are an integrator type without a visionary?
Yep.
Did you mention how you feel about go get a visionary?
Yeah. So when I touched on it.
Okay.
All right. So an integrator, actually this is awesome. Okay. A good integrator, right? If you're an integrator, Miranda, and you have the pick of the crop of people who want to be CEOs. People want to be entrepreneurs. The important part about an integrator without a visionary is you need to find the person with awesome ideas that has and can convince people to get on their team and can pull off the big deals, right? Like Grant approached me while I had an operation where we're doing basically in gross $1 million a year in gross assignment fees and wholesale profits and such for really the last 4 or 5 years straight. Grant approached me and said, here is what I've been building. Here's what you've been building. And I have this vision that if we combine these things and we use these 2 separate skill sets and we swim in the lanes that we're good at, that 1 + 1 will equal 5. And it was a good idea. Now, it wasn't like, hey, all right, let's do it. We talked for months, just back and forth. Like, let's sit that in, months. Then when he flew up to Michigan, we had 30 hours in 2 days of deep diving into every nook and cranny, where this is a guy that has $50 million to buy real estate. I don't have $50 million to do it. I have the system that I can wholesale and I could build up my own cash over time, but he's gotten people behind him that we can execute and put it in the market. And he's like, hey, you can put this operation together. He had that vision. And then he also comes in and he says, so these are where you're at, this is where I'm at, and here's where we're at in the market cycle, and being able to take where we're at and what's going to change and what's going to stay the same, and saying these strategies are going to stay the same, and here's how we can execute on these strategies and how we can maximize, how can we create a system around these strategies to be able to get maximum efficiency. And so we take a great idea and we match it with someone who can put together the process to realize that great idea. And then as you're mapping out that process and getting the timing right and setting step 1, step 2, step 3, the massive idea that was actually good to the guy who can put the steps together to accomplish that idea, 1 + 1 = 5. And that's where instead of doing, 3 to 7 closings a month, in literally 3 weeks, we had 13 deals closed, which contracts are more than that. So just kind of push that off, where that's like, I think overall we've had in like the 22, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think 22 contracts. 13 of them have been deals in 3 weeks, because we partner, and it's like 1 plus 1 equals 5. Great idea. The process, melding them together, and it exploded. One thing you'll see with like Fortune 500 companies or people on the fastest growing companies is you got 1, 2, 3, 4 awesome dudes in their place, and they're all swimming in their lane. But they have a visionary who has great ideas and can get people behind them. And they have an integrator who can meld that process and figure out the behaviors and the to-dos. So that way, once they're put together, they can put people in the right roles that have the right skills, and everybody in their swim lane snaps into place, and we win.
Yeah. And so to summarize that, before we hit this last break, like I said before, like an integrator is going to be just fine without a visionary. Because you've got to look at it, right? You've got to look at you don't love the journey, you love the result. This is a guy who's doing over $1 million a year in real estate. Can
I cut you off real quick? The reason why the integrator will do good is because the integrator is proving that his process works every day. Like, he's proving, like, if I do this, this is the result I get, I'm gonna do that again, right? Like, if I step in, I do this, I made $10,000. I do this, I make $10,000. The visionary has these ideas, and they might be good and they might not be good, but there's not a tangible reality. Like, being an entrepreneur is hard because you see a future that you've got to create, and you're looking into the abyss and you're like, can I bet against the odds? Can I pull this off? And the visionary's like, well, I know that system works, so I'm just gonna, like, I can pull that off. And then a visionary comes in and says, dude, I got this idea, and the integrator goes, dude, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like you come up to me and you're like, dude, so this is what I think. And I'm like, well, check it out. If we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here's the pitfalls, and this is what we got to watch out for, and this is what we hid. You know what? Why don't you fly up here, and I've got like a 4-day agenda for us to go through, because this is what it's going to take for us to be on the same page. And he's like, yeah, bro.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, dude, that idea will make us X.
Right. And that's so, like, again, so to directly pair that back to your question, Juno, is that we've got, if you're an integrator, which you are, like, Juno's one of our mastermind, she says Miranda here, but that's Juno. It's, is one of our mastermind members. When you are an integrator type, like, you're going to be fine. You've got to decide. Anybody who's watching this video, not just Juno, but anybody watching this video, you have to decide what you want out of this business. If you're an integrator or you're a visionary, you've got to decide what you want out of this business. When we run a property, okay, we get a lead in, and we're going to analyze that lead. What is the first number that we look for on that lead?
The ARV.
The ARV. And why is that?
Because we want to know what the house is worth.
We want to know what the house is worth. We want to know what we can sell it for. We're starting at the end.
It's a static number that doesn't change.
And everything that we do on that deal is entirely controlled by the very last thing that happens on that deal.
Yep.
Which is the sale of that house, right?
Yep.
Too many people get into this business and forget to find the ARV of their career.
That's good.
Right? And forget to look at what you want to get out of the business that you're creating. And so you just start trying to do, well, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? Which you do have to, like, kind of, but like he said, we spent 30 hours like going through this stuff, and it was a perfect, like, attribute. So, well, to finish that thought, as an integrator type or as a visionary type, you got to know what your career's ARV is. What are you trying to get out of this? And then, like, put some steps into play to get there. Now, we had a conversation on the way into the studio this morning where we both recognize, and I've used this example with you guys before, of, like, everybody loves to worship Steve Jobs for, like, his business acumen and all that kind of stuff, and, like, man, and, like, Apple is blah, blah. Steve Jobs was a terrible father and husband, right?
Right.
So there is a direct correlation to the sacrifice that it's going to take to get to your career's ARV, right? And your willingness to do that. And we both know and appreciate that, like, you can recognize what it might take to get to that place, and you got to just kind of decide whether or not you're willing to make the sacrifices to get there. There's a very real position as an integrator type where you've got to decide, do I want to make $100,000 a year wholesaling 5 deals a year, or whatever that would, that would be? Or do I want to have a company that buys houses and wholesales deals where I'm personally only taking $5,000 out of this deal, but I'm doing 90 of them?
Yeah.
Right? And you kind of make that decision and move forward. So then the advice of, like, well, what's your advice to an integrator who does not have a visionary is, what's your career ARV? Is it, I'm going to do 5 wholesale deals a year and make X? Or is it, I'm going to do 12 owner finance deals a year and make X?
Yep.
Or is it, I want to build a company that's going to dominate a market in a niche that buys houses for me? And if you have a BHAG, a big hairy ass goal, I say it weird, ace, big hairy ass goal as a Six Sigma term, I think is where that comes from. Not Six Sigma, but it's part of it. Anyway, if you have a BHAG, that BHAG may only be achievable with a true visionary in your corner.
Well, and here's the thing, what he's talking about, the ARV of your career is, in chess, a pro player knows the next 6 to 8 moves ahead of what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. A grandmaster, I've been using this week since I've been here, a grandmaster knows their next 15 moves. The problem is, as real estate investors, and this isn't necessarily just integrators and visionaries, as real estate investors, we want to make move 15 on move 2. Mm-hmm. Our timing's wrong. We need to map out the next moves. We need to map out the end, the fact that we've got to capture that king. But we really want, we want that awesome, checkmate move at the wrong time. So, think of it this way. Let's say you want to get into working out, and I'm you decide, I want to work out, and I want to take in me and my wife to go work out, right? You're already starting to laugh because
yeah.
Right? You're starting to do this, and you're like, all right, they're like, yeah, we need to do this, we need to set this up, and you have all the best intentions, and you're getting up in the morning, you're getting ready to go to work, and your wife gets out of the shower, and you're like, you know what, babe, we should start working out together. And she's like,
how dare you?
Yeah, right? It's dude, wrong time.
Right.
It was a great, thought, a great step towards your health and but you approached it at the wrong time. It's the same thing with your Grandmaster plan. You've got your next 15 moves, which one, it starts with planning. Mm-hmm. And then 2, what are the steps to get there? Move 2 is different from move 15, and all of us want the results of move 15 without the strategic placement of move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you've got to know where you're going, and then you've got to put the steps in place.
Absolutely. Great advice. All right, so let's take a break. When we get back, as we promised, we will give you, or Ronnie will give you, do these couple of things, you're gonna buy houses. This is your 45 times of rolling the dice, okay? If you've got some questions, drop them in here before we get out of here. We do want to address everything that you might want to know from an operational dude, because I know so many of us in this career need that operational mind. So drop those questions, hang out, we'll talk to you when we get back.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at creativecashflow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. creativecashflow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
All right, welcome back, guys. Again, here in the studio with us, we've got my business partner, a guy that I really respect and look up to in so many ways. His name is Ronnie Walker. So here's the visionary integrator role. The visionary's role is to be on front of the camera. The visionary's role is the big relationships, the handshakes, the capital raise, the people, the culture, the ideas, that kind of thing. I don't have any of my successes without this guy sitting here actually running the operations in the background, because the work has to get done. And guess what? If you're truly operating at a high level as a CEO, as a visionary, dude, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
I spend all freaking day. And when I say all day, I'm like 10 plus, 12 plus, 15 plus hours, shaking hands, networking, ideaing, building, that kind of stuff.
Well, and as a CEO, as a visionary type, he said he doesn't have the successes without this guy. That's actually not true. What it is there, as a COO or a visionary, there's 4 things you should do. Number 1, you should be creating systems. Number 2, you should be shaking hands, business development, sales. These 2 things, the first 2, creates, so systems and sales create consistency in your business. The integrator can create that system and create the consistency. But where a visionary, literally a good visionary, is explosive growth. Explosive growth comes from having innovative strategies and campaigns and ideas and developing people and leaders. These 2 things, the development of those around you, the building up of those around you, the convincing them and bringing them in. So the person who's next to me also makes $200,000 a year and develops that person and comes up with these ideas that have these explosive ideas. Now combine those 4 together, you've got operations, you've got sales, which creates consistency. Then you've got the development of leaders and explosive or innovative campaigns and things. When that takes off, you get an explosion. But if you have the operations, you can maintain the consistency of an explosion. And that's where the visionary needs to spend their time. Okay? Now I want to answer a question. I'm going to go a different way. There's a question here by Gerson Cruz. How do you get over the fear of cold calling? I love this question, bro. One, awesome job for just being open and honest and unveiling your fear. But this is what I love about cold calling. Every single person on the planet hates cold calling. Maybe not. There might be somebody. But this is why I love it, is because when you dig into the thing that you hate, you might not get the result that you want, but you're building something indirectly. You're building courage in yourself that you can look back and you can say, dude, there was 100 names on that list that I had to dial. That first door of opening is so hard, but when you dial that 100, you might not have got a deal and you might be down on yourself, but you faced adversity and you stood and you look back and you're like, dude, I did 100 dials. And the next time it's like, dude, that's gonna suck. I gotta call. But now you do it. This time you're like, I did 150. And what happens is you build mental grit every single time you dial that phone. And so have I done cold calling? Yes. I have actually sat behind the computer, and before I was even in real estate, I did a ton of cold calling. That's how I got my sales, doing sales, is I just needed to get in front of people, and I didn't know how to generate that initially except for just calling people. When I was at Chase and managing, investments and such, I was on the phone because I knew I needed to talk to people. But every time you pick up that phone, Gerson, you're building courage, and what you're doing is you're building a reputation with yourself. And that reputation with yourself will give you the confidence when you're standing in front of somebody else. And so how do you get over the fear of cold calling? Embrace the suck short term. Don't outsource it, because you're not going to understand how to outsource something unless you understand the process. You can't outsource or delegate something you don't understand. So you got to understand it so you can speak to it, right? You don't have to be a master at it. You just got to understand it. So, but it sounds like there's this fear that's building up. And my guess is for a lot of us, there's fear in a lot of areas of our life. And this is why going into things we're uncomfortable, it builds confidence because it first creates courage. And the more things you do that you're afraid of doing, your courage, like bar, builds over time. Where now, like, you can walk up to anybody and you can say, hey, yo, bro, I know you're doing this. I got like 3 questions real quick, and it's going to take me 5 minutes, and this is what's that. And it's like a dude who's famous that you might want to talk to. And instead of speaking back like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to do this. Like, I really want this, but I'm not sure how they're going to. That's overanalyzing. That's fear. But because you've been cold calling or doing other activities that directly go against your fear, you build courage over time. So how do you get over it? Like, literally sit down, accept the reality, like, this is terrible. Accept the reality, you're gonna suck. And if you hear multiple things that on Propelio, on other businesses, people that share their growth, you hear things like, we spent $1 million building this. People didn't write $1 million check. This is what happened. They tried a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of that stuff failed and fell to the wayside, and they're like, man, I wasted that money, but they didn't. They learned, they built courage, they realized, hey, in the midst of that, I had these 2 success, even though that thing failed, like, these 2 things came out of it, and like, now it's like, okay, these 2 things came out of it, all right, let's develop that. And then this thing went wrong, and they had to pivot. And then this thing went wrong, and they had to pivot. So really, if they could go back, they probably could have, like, if they knew what they know now at the very beginning, they spent $100,000, they had the same result. But you can't do that unless you face your fear and you're willing to fail. Failure is part of the journey, bro.
And just understanding too that, like, what is that fear? Is the fear that somebody's gonna yell at you? Is the fear that they're gonna say no? Like, what is that? How does that actually affect you?
Yeah.
Right? There's a similar, very, like, I say it's similar, it's really not similar at all, but I'm using this analogy anyway, right? In that, because we were talking about this, and so it's kind of fresh on my mind, of like, worrying doesn't change the truth.
Yeah.
Right? You have to lead your day with like a list of yes or no questions, okay? And just simplify your life down to that. Do I want to buy houses? Yes or no? Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Does that, like, am I willing to market to find houses? Yes or no? Yes. I've recognized that cold calling is an area that I need to get into. Yes or no? Yes. Right? And you break these things down, and then you end up with, I'm going to have to make cold calls? Does me worrying, does what they say on the other side affect me materially in any way? No. It's stressful, it sucks, but it doesn't matter whether or how you feel. What matters is the result of what's happening. And if you've got to dial the phone to get somebody to say yes to you, then you dial the phone to get somebody to say yes to you, and your fear is nothing.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like when we did, like I did like martial arts and fighting for a long time, and it sounds like overly macho that my teacher would say this, and it wasn't him being overly macho, but there was just truth behind, like, somebody would hurt, or like we'd be talking about like how to get out of something that hurts or whatever, and the thing that kept getting drilled into our mind is pain is nothing. Pain is literally nothing. Pain is just your brain like giving you some information. Pain is nothing. Injury is something. You should be worried about injury.
Yeah.
But you can ignore pain because pain is literally nothing. So you have a pain that you need to get past, of this fear is your pain, and cold calling, what is that? It's nothing. Ignore it. It's not an injury. You don't have a broken tongue, right? Your pain is a fear that's nothingness. Move past it. Make the call.
Yeah.
Right? So, as we wrap this up, we did promise you guys something. We promised you that we were going to give you an idea of, oh, actually, you know what? Before I get there, this is an important one that I probably should have addressed at the beginning because of how much we've talked about the integrator or visionary thing. How do you know if you're a visionary or integrator when you're doing both in the beginning? That's a very important question, because when you are in stage one, like, you can't afford to hire people, most likely. you've got to build this system. You've got to prove that it works. And I really recommend you read Traction. And if you just want to only care about the visionary and integrator relationship, get a book called Rocket Fuel. It's a follow-up to Traction. It will give you a chapter-long overview of Traction. And it's funny because like actually in the book, it's like the first part of that chapter is, hey guys, if you're reading this book after having read Traction, just skip this chapter. It like literally says that. It's like, this is for everybody else who needs to know what we're talking about with Traction. But if you read it, we're just going to talk it over, right? And that's specifically just the visionary and integrator. Here's the short of it is like, I want you to read Traction because it does talk about building your accountability chart. You want to, as part of your plan, have an idea of what does my fully scaled company look like. Now, this is a little bit of a waste of time in your stage 1, right? This is more of like a stage 1 to stage 2 move, is like building your accountability chart to say like, hey, in my fully scaled version, I've got a CEO, a COO, a head of marketing, a head of operations, and a head of finances. And then within that, I've got my CPA and my bookkeeper, and like that's kind of the planning you get down to. The point being, it doesn't matter if you have that document or not. Your business is going to require many different jobs to start with. You're going to have to be the person that answers the phone. You're going to have to be the person that enters stuff into QuickBooks. You're going to have to be the person that comes up with the ideas. So you're wearing many hats, right? So it can be confusing as to like, well, which one is my true hat? And as your business grows from stage 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, you start as having built an accountability chart and saying, hey, my person who answers the phone must only let the phone ring 3 times and must spend X amount of time on the phone and must send an email follow-up, right? And if any one of those single items that you've identified as like, my fully scaled company needs this person to do that thing, if you're wearing 2 hats and you see one of these line items fail, that's the job you fire yourself from, and you replace that with a new hire, right? But visionary is the idea person, right? Just to define visionary and integrator, and you've got to figure out what your native genius is. Everybody can sit in every seat. How successful are you in that seat, and how much of and is that seat your native genius is the question.
Yeah.
A visionary has ideas. A visionary, like my world, and I've said this several times, like internally, and I think even publicly too, my life in this company is to build the company that we have 2 years from now. That's my brain, okay? Every decision I'm making, every bit of my hour that I get spent in my day is based around, I'm not working today, I'm working 2 years from now. That's a visionary, okay? The integrator is working today. I'm working 2 years from now, Ronnie is working right now. Ronnie is making sure that the operations that are currently needing to be handled to get to that place in 2 years looks like this, right? The integrator is going to beat the drum. The integrator can hear a vision, poke all the holes in it, say, well, this is why that vision would fail, and these are the questions we need answered to have the full details to understand whether or not that is a good or bad idea, right? Because I have ideas. Yeah. He tells me if they're good or bad. He says, dude, actually, I think we can get that done. Or he says, well, but wait, but what about this, this, and this, right? Yep. Like literally to the point, I think it's an excellent, it exemplified exactly why we are who we are with each other. I called Ronnie and I said, dude, there is a niche market that is not being served on a national scale, which is the owner financing with the creative terms that we have while using the technologies and everything that we have available to us now that weren't available until like, it being this.
Yeah.
I think we should partner up. I think we can kill it. I think we can do 750 houses in the next 7 years was my initial plan, right? And we've come to find out we might do that next year, which is crazy. But right. But I think we can do 750. So there I am. That's all I got. Well, he kicks back to me and says, all right, well, these are the things that I need answered to decide if that's true.
Yeah, I sent him
I had to answer
huge list.
And he said a huge list. I think it was 7 to 10 questions, right? He literally is just well, here's 10 questions I need answered. To which I'm like, yeah, you're right. Those are real questions. I didn't even think about that. And so then I had to answer them. And I put it into a little presentation and I presented it. And I was like, well, here's what I see the view of this being. And then he was able to judge that and say, yay or nay, right? That's a perfect exemplary or exemplification of our two roles. Idea, break it apart. So if you're sitting in both roles at the beginning, where are you most naturally inclined to sit? Are you most naturally inclined to say, like, ooh, I'm super attracted by the fact that this idea might change my income 2 years from now? Or are you most naturally inclined to say, stop freaking telling me about what's going to happen next year. I need to go put 500 pieces of mail in the mailbox by the end of the week if I'm going to get 10 calls that I'm going to convert to 2 deals out of. Right? So where's your native genius? What's the one that comes natural to you? What is the one that you could sit in? Like, I work tons of hours, and Ronnie works tons of hours right now because we're building the foundation of it, but we're in our lane and it's like easy peasy.
1 + 1 = 5. So here's the thing. We talked about 2 strategies that I want to give you for marketing. Number 1, if you don't have any money, this is what we do, okay?
And by the way, I'm going to hawk the likes at this point in time. So make sure you give us likes, comments, shares. Let people know. If you've got people, it is an abundance mentality. We are about to tell you 2 legitimate ways, like, you will buy houses if you do these 2 things. Encourage us, help us out, help the algorithms, frankly, for Facebook and YouTube to understand that we're giving good content out, because we're giving good content out. Help us get that seen by more people. So I'm going to hawk that real quick. Back to you.
All right. So number 1, if you don't have the money to spend thousands of dollars a week or even throw out, like a big marketing campaign, what you want to do is you want to get a Driving for Dollars app. Propelio has a great one. Okay, you want to get the Driving for Dollars app and you want to map out the way that the places that you're going to go. And you're looking in areas that were built, like sections of your city that were built between 1955 and 1985. Don't go to the newer places, go to those places. Drive through them and write down every house in those areas. Okay? Then what you want to do
Not every house.
Every house that looks vacant, every house that looks vacant, every house that looks distressed.
Give a couple of tips of like what does distress mean? Like, why might I drop a pin on the Propelio app?
That's good. So if you drop a pin on the thing, what you're looking for, it's got an old roof, there's a broken down car in the driveway, you see the mailbox full, grass is like, a foot high, there's no blinds on the windows, the door has a lock where there's a handle that's supposed to be. Like, these are telltale signs that this house is not lived in, or that this house has been lived in by somebody for 20 years, but they're not paying a lot of attention to it. That's what you want to drop a pin in, because you're not just looking for vacant. The people might live there, but they're ready to make a transition in their life. This is kind of about understanding who that seller is, but that's just what you're looking for, distressed properties. Drop the pins in and then send them a personal note that creates urgency. Hey, Mr. Seller, like, these are the words. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for the owner of the house at X address owned by so-and-so. Please call me. My name is Ronald Walker. Please call me. Creates urgency. You literally handwrite that, drop in the mail, and wait, and then hit them 3 times with 3 mailers over the next 4 months. Build this list out until you talk to 200 people. You will get a deal. Keep doing it until your phone rings and you talk to 200 people. That's what you're looking for, and work the system. That's what you want to do if you don't have any money, and do it until you get a deal. You don't need, literally, you've got stamps, you've got envelopes, and you got gas money. That's what you do. Now, if you've got money and you're in Propelio, let's just throw that in there because I'm going to use the Propelio list. Let's just say probates is a legit. So when we talk about these lists being awesome and hacking what other people have done, these are motivated sellers that are tried and true, that are literally new every single day. Like, that's awesome, right? Like, these are new, fresh things that someone hasn't owned for 25 years, okay? However, if you've been in Propelio for 6 months, everybody is trying to get to that lead first, and they might have a drip campaign for 2, 3, 4 times to hit that probate lead, right? Like, because the idea is, man, if I'm the first person there, they'll call me, I can get the deal, and then I'll follow up with them. But here's the thing, there's a whole bunch of people that came out today that are not ready to sell today. So what I want you to do is I want you to go back 6 months, a year ago, because now they're out of people's follow-up sequences. They might now be ready to sell when they weren't ready to sell up front, when everybody was smashing them, and they're not getting mailers. So you know what you do? You go back and then you hammer the people from 6 to 8 months ago. You hammer them 3 to 5 times, because there's a whole bunch of people in there that are now ready. They're emotionally stable. They know what they want to accomplish with the house. They know what they want to do with the inheritance that they just received in that property. They feel like people have got on the same page. And if they've rehabbed the house and sold it, guess what? It's already gone. But if they sat there and they're like, man, I wanted to do that, but it's just a headache, and man, I need to get rid of this. Maybe I should call an investor. Like, there's a whole bunch of those people. And like, man, I had those cards a while back. Like, man, I wish I could get, and they're not getting them anymore. And then they go on and they're like, you know what? I'm going to give that dude a call. Now you have a motivated person that's extremely reasonable, that wants to talk to an investor who can solve their issue. So go back 6 months, create a sequence on people who are 6 months old, and then cycle that and create a postcard sequence of 3 to 5 postcards and hit them from the old leads. You will absolutely get deals, and your response rate will shoot up. And here's the thing. When I said hacking before, and I'm just going to put a plug for Propelio here, like, these people are the reasonable sellers who want to sell their homes. Take the strategy with these lists and tweak it a little bit that people are not doing. Like, if you know people are sending them right away, yes, you can send them right away, but tweak it just a little bit. Like, how can I exploit this in a way that other people aren't doing or other people aren't thinking of? And that's what's going to increase that response rate, rather than just doing the exact same strategy that they're doing. Hey, they're pulling the probate list. I know I got to get to them first. Everyone's trying to get to them first. I'm trying to do this. Oh my gosh. And really the reality is, there's not like everybody. That's something we say in our head. There's probably just like a certain number of people. Mm-hmm. But still, if you can add a unique tweak, and this is where kind of the visionary comes in, just a unique tweak, it will give you that small advantage, that 10% edge is going to make you succeed. Whether it's time, whether it's strategy, whether it's touching a lower amount of people who want something, just a small tweak on proven processes, and you'll succeed.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And it also points out too, like, the importance of, you're in Propelio as a member, stay a member, because you get to pull the lists all the way back to when you joined, right? So it's funny because, like, the lists are great when they come out at first, hands down. But they actually get stronger over time because, like, and here's the funny thing, is like, everybody's like, oh, everybody pulls the list, so I'm not going to market to it. Everybody says everybody pulls the list, so I'm not going to market to it. Right. So nobody's marketing to it. You know what I mean? It's like this funny, like, whatever. So pull the list, market. But it gets stronger over time because people stop pulling for 6 months ago. They stop pulling for a year ago, and you are going to have dead leads that, you're like you said, like, you're going to send mail to people who've already sold their house.
Absolutely.
However, the response rates you get, although they might be smaller, are more qualified.
Yes.
Right? And that's what you need in your business, is qualified leads. So I hope you guys take those to heart and, like, go do them, because...
And actually, your response rate is not going to be smaller.
Okay.
Your response, like, that is, and I don't want to make a definitive statement because it's...
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I don't know.
But your response rate will not be smaller. The people, because they've been prepped by somebody else. And because here's the thing that we hate, right? Like, you do all the work and then a dude comes in and steals the deal out from under you. Like, that's a real thing that we all deal with, right? Like,
so let's be that dude.
Right? So they got like 17 postcards or more, or 100, whatever that stack in their mailbox that we all think happens. And they're no. And then they're like, and then they get it and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm ready.
Mm. That's awesome.
And then they call you and you're going to get people. Yeah, I sold it 6 months ago. Yeah, I did this. Don't pay attention to that. The dude who calls you is like, yeah, I am interested in selling. You know this dude's been sitting on this house for 6 months. You know it came from this Propellio list, if you grab the Propellio one, that they were marketed to by people in the Propellio Academy. And if you're tracking that it came from this list and this dude's like, yeah, I'm interested in selling, you have an insight that they're not telling you that, dude, they're motivated. Even though I'm just exploring, but they're 6 months old. You know, like, okay, this dude is ready. Like, he's calling me because he's ready. I've hit him at the right time. I've rolled double sixes. I've got a deal that this guy wants to do. And as long as you just talk to him like a reasonable human being, you're going to wrap that up and you're going to make 15 grand.
Yeah. That's amazing. Ronnie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been really cool. Guys, I've mentioned a couple of times our mastermind, right? The Creative Cashflow Mastermind. Ronnie is 50% owner of CreativeCashflow.com. We partner in everything, right? So Ronnie's actually flying down for our next mastermind, which is January 10th, 11th, and 12th or something like that. It's a 2-day mastermind, and it's that Friday and Saturday, whatever that is. So he's actually going to fly down. And the way that the mastermind works is day one, CreativeCashflow.com feeds into you somehow. We will recognize a thing that the people that are in this mastermind can benefit from and make money with and feed into you. This time in January, we meet quarterly, he's flying down and is going to go like hardcore into list building, marketing strategies. What does your postcard look like? How did we get a 9.5% return rate on our mail? What is our KPI that we're tracking? Like all those things that we can't go into in an hour-long Grant Teach Me Something will be like completely taken out. One of the big important parts of, like, I've paid a lot of money to be in masterminds. Collectively, we've got like 50 grand a year going out in masterminds. And it's like about, for me, like I literally, like I hear the names of the people that are in the mastermind. I don't care anything else. Boom, done. Because I want to eat dinner with them that night.
Yep.
I want to go to lunch with them that day. I want to talk shoulder to shoulder with somebody who's where I want to be. That's what's up about mastermind. So we're going to pour into you day one, day two. It turns out into you are going to get up and give for like 5 minutes. Hey, this is something that worked for me in the last quarter that we're getting successes with. And then you say, this is something I'm banging my head up against the wall with. And the entire room, Ronnie and myself included, will brainstorm and help you break through that barrier. So in a way, you're getting a quarterly operational genius to help you be that integrator, which so many of us don't have, and break through your biggest problem. So every quarter you leave with your biggest problem being solved. So it's a huge, huge benefit. Go apply. Not everybody gets in. Not everybody gets to go to Harvard. We're expensive and we're good. Apply though. If you have any interest of like, I want to get to that next level, go to creativecashflow.com, check out the mastermind, hit apply. You and I will have a conversation. And if I feel like I can get you to that next level, we'll bring you in. You'll show up in January and it's going to be a great time getting to know each other.
Here's the thing, guys, is we live in a culture that everybody knows that they need to honor and protect their time. We live in a culture where people who are awesome are insulating themselves more and more. And this is just like, people constantly ask, how do I find a mentor? How do I get someone to pour into me? And then these other guys are hard to reach, right? It's like, how do I get in touch with these guys? How do I touch them? Here, the answer is, like, the reason why masterminds is because you literally get, like he said, you get to have dinner and you get to hang out with people. And if you're hanging out, like the truth, the people you surround yourself with is who you think, like the way they think is going to get in through osmosis going to get into your brain. And so this is an opportunity to literally just get your questions answered, but be in a room with people that you know are at a certain tier. For one, what they spend to get into the room. Two, that the people at the front actually know what they're talking about and can walk you through the strategies that they're getting success and having just a real operation. But no matter what you do, think about, just like we're talking about the tweaks, you want to be able to pick their brain and like take them out to lunch. Like that stuff doesn't work anymore for high achievers. Dudes don't want to go out to coffee. They want to, but they can't because there's only 5 coffee times a week. And there's tons and tons of people.
Yeah.
And so literally this is an opportunity to be able to sit down and surround yourself with people that are going to take you to the next level. And so just leave it with that. Just think just a little bit differently of what is the cost, not money-wise, but what am I willing to sacrifice to achieve my goal? And if it's preparation, if it's time, what are my next 15 moves? Is this going to give me the value that I want? Do they have what I want? Because here's the thing, if you are already there, right? Like if you're a legit visionary and you have an awesome integrator and you're killing it, like this might not be for you, right? Like this might be step 1 to 5 to get you to a consistent business, like you might be in step 14.
Right.
And
Yeah,
if
because
you're
we
in step
specialize
14,
just frankly, we specialize in people who've done fewer than 10 deals, right?
Yeah.
Like getting you into that consistency. So this could be a good step for you. Like I said, if you're interested, apply. We'll talk about it. We'll see if it's a good fit. Also, before we leave, just making sure you understand that none of this happens. None of this wonderful information gets dispersed at all on a weekly basis, if not for Propelio.com. Propelio.com, we've mentioned a couple of times here, it's not just like a website that we're like, hey, Propelio. It is a legitimate part of your business that's going to take you from being a hobbyist to being a true professional. You need to have tools in your tool belt. And some of those tools are strategy, some of those tools are system. If you can steal system, i.e. Propelio, yeah, you could build system.
right?
You could have VAs go grab all your leads and collect them and skip tray and put them in a nice little spot. Or you could steal a system and just have it done for you and focus on the things that you need to do and have to do that you can't steal in your business to get that next step. So Propelio.com, don't steal Propelio, but go to Propelio, sign up, because that is a pre-built system for you that gives you your leads, gives you your websites, gives you your CRM, gives you everything you need to get in there and consistently be buying. Because I often say this about like partnerships in the beginning. You need to have zero fear with paying somebody else for what they're good at, so that you can focus on what you're good at until you get your company into a position where you get to decide whether or not you want to fire that person. And you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like pay, like for instance, using a realtor, right? Like use a realtor so that you don't have to worry about selling your house until maybe your operation gets big enough that you can hire an internal salesperson and maybe you pay a little bit less, right? But up front, you need to focus on the strategic moves that you need to get to your next level.
And Daniel has said this, and I think it's awesome, like at the beginning with the lists, people paid and he paid like literally thousands, like $1,000 to $1,500 a month in VAs and pulling it and scrubbing and doing that before he like put this together for you for a cheap price. I also paid $1,500 to $1,800 a month to get this exact same thing, and you get it for cheap. So like I am one of the dudes that he said like, hey, I know a couple guys, like I was that guy that paid for this for more.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here with us. We got to have a good long talk today. I hope you really enjoyed getting some insight into Ronnie's brain on this. As we go into these next series, this next mini series that we are going to hit, we are going to be talking about how do you get from stage 1, or like how do you get from 0 deals to a deal? How do you go from, which I consider stage 1 being 0 to 10 deals. How do you go from stage 1 to stage 2? How do you go from stage 2 to stage 3, 3 to 4, and 4 beyond? Those are going to be like kind of our next mini series, so tune in because we want to give you all the tips and tricks that you need to succeed. Don't forget to sign up, subscribe on YouTube. Hit the little bell thing because it'll like alert you whenever a video. If you don't hit the bell thing, it won't let you know when these videos are going live. We love having you here. We love having the interaction. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.